Well, let's turn our attention over to the markets as producers around the state are taking a bow on the planting season with trade negotiations and tariffs keeping looming over the grain markets. Joining us to discuss topics like that is Heather Ramsey from the ARC Group, and here's our conversation from Wednesday afternoon. So Heather, as we sit here on a Wednesday, parts of Nebraska, of course, receiving some much needed rain. Looking at the big picture, weather has been finally being traded here in the markets recently. How are you seeing that shape up this week?
Well, I think we switched our mindset a little bit. From the end of last week, we were kind of in this just widespread, everyone's going to get rain, crops are going to look fantastic, perfect yield, send the market lower. This week, it's actually kind of the opposite. This is what we do. We trade extremes. Now, all of a sudden, coming in on Monday, Tuesday, we get some rain, very, very widespread across all of the growing region, really. And in parts that maybe don't actually want it. So there has been a segment of ground down by the Delta, kind of southern Illinois, Missouri, southern Indiana, Ohio, that's been way too wet. And so there's a discussion around prevent plant and like what acres are really up for prevent plant possibility. I know that there's quite a few acres to the north as well still unplanted. It didn't seem like they had quite as soaking, drenching rains as maybe what the south had received. So I think there's a lot of expectation that that still gets planted in a timely fashion. It's more so in the south. Again, there's like estimates out there for how many acres are left, but like at the end of the day, if we just wait 2 weeks, we'll kind of know that. However, as you said, the markets are going to trade whatever the markets want to trade, and it's just kind of this one headline to the next type of situation. So that's been an interesting headlines to start seeing. Now it's too wet. Last week it was too dry. Now it's too wet. For where we sit in Nebraska, though, I will say it's just been a fabulous rain. It's been really great coverage. We haven't seen this kind of really consistent widespread rain for at least my client base, border to border, as nice it has been. It's been several years. So I think this gives a lot of people a little bit of a sigh of relief because we have been extremely dry in a lot of areas that we work with.
Mm-hmm. Important to mention too, it's mid-May.
Yeah.
There's still time to get things in the ground.
Yes.
Yep.
Still plenty of time to get things in the ground. I mean, still plenty of time for the weather to just absolutely up and change its mind again. I know some of the longer range forecasts right now do actually look hot and dry into the summer, which I kind of chuckle because, well, it's the summertime. I expect it to be hot and dry in Nebraska, and I kind of expect it to be hot and dry everywhere. It's summertime. So lots of room yet to wiggle on, what can this crop look like. I definitely don't think anything's a done deal at this point in time. But the market definitely likes to trade, like I said, in those extremes of today we're great and tomorrow we're terrible from the weather standpoint.
Mm-hmm. Okay, over the past week, let's look at the bean complex. There have been some really high days and some really low days.
Yeah.
What sticks out in your mind when you look at that complex?
The biggest thing is, in soybeans specifically, but kind of all the markets in general, it's good to take a step back and look at it from a weekly or a bi-weekly or a monthly perspective, honestly, because like you said, it's been all over the place, and so day to day it's hard to gauge what does good look like. When we look at soybeans, since January, we've had a low of like 970s, 974-ish, I believe, and we've had highs of 1075. That's a dollar range in there. We've now rebounded off of those 970 lows, and we're sitting between 1040 and 1060, depending on the day, like you said. So I think in this range, I'm looking at it, and I'm fully aware that this is not a break-even or money-making price point. But I'm also extremely aware that this is 60, 70, 80 cents off of lows. And so as a risk manager, you want to look at that and be able to take advantage of those numbers and put some protection on for the client. We've had a lot of discussions around this. What does protection look like? It can look very different for different operations. But at the end of the day, you're trying to set yourself up so that if we should go back and test those 970s, should we have a really massive South American crop that is projected, honestly, that's not out of the question, that we aren't susceptible all the way down. The risk is never that the market goes up as long as you position yourself correctly. Like, you can take advantage of that later. It's always trying to protect against downside. So I think with this rebound up here into 1040 to 1060 futures range, someday can that look like $10 cash? Absolutely. In this state it could. And so I think this is a good opportunity to at least try to take some of that downside risk off the table and put it into our pocket, use it as protection, and just keep things a little bit more stable base underneath. Hard to say if we'll get an opportunity later on to price in a profitable level. I always hold out hope. I'm as bad as all the farmers, hold out hope for that. But definitely want to do a good job of recognizing opportunities when they come our way.
Let's round it out with the wheat pits. It's been supportive to the corn complex. We see wheat streak mosaic virus being the big headline here in the last week, 2 weeks with the Kansas tour. What are you telling producers on that? What are you looking at, Heather?
It's interesting because wheat, really the late stages of growth can be so varied, and this disease that you bring up has a lot of market analysts and headline writers really scratching their head on what does this mean? At the end of the day, it's going to be field by field, acre by acre on what kind of production issue we have. I will say, as far as reports go, it looks like this is probably the biggest this crop is on a report. It probably only shrinks from here just because of these issues. Globally, we're kind of the destination of choice, or I guess the export facility of choice.
Cheapest wheat in the world.
Cheapest wheat in the world. Let's buy that. So that we've seen the exports pick up. And as much as the forecast right now, or the numbers right now, show a really good yield, that's probably going to shrink a little bit. That continues to put longs into that wheat market. They've been slow. I think they probably want to see some actual harvest data first before they really buy into that conversation. But it's there. You can see the hints of it. So I think this is another opportunity where you can kind of position yourself from a protection standpoint and leave yourself upside potential in wheat. But yeah, I think that's going to be definitely more of a harvest time play and see where things kind of shake out, which we're getting closer. We're only a couple months. So.